Hello humans. In the last episode, we introduced stars as being in the family of clumps of matter. When you put literally trillions of tons of stuff together, you get a sphere of plasma that is kept alive by a nuclear reactor in its core. They are amazing objects, and as you start to get what they actually are, you can't help but be in awe. Stars themselves are divided into their own extended family. In this series, among other things, I intend to go through this family and take a look at what each type of star is like, starting today with the smallest type of main sequence star, M-class stars. This is an M-class star, also known as a red dwarf. It is the lightest and coolest star you can get. Any less massive, and it wouldn't have enough gravity to squeeze its central core enough to maintain the fusion reaction. It would then be a brown dwarf, which we will cover later. Here is how an M-class star compares to our Sun. Tiny, right? Well, not so fast. Next to the Earth, you get a feel of just how huge even the tiniest stars are. While it may only be 6% of the radius of our Sun, it is still over 12,000 times heavier than the Earth. It is a lot cooler than our Sun, which is also why it is a lot redder. Our Sun's surface temperature is 5,800 degrees Kelvin, while this red dwarf is only 2,000. They are so cool that the only nuclear reaction that they can sustain is the proton-proton chain, and can only produce helium. This makes it a whopping 60,000 times dimmer than our Sun. Here it is, as seen from Earth, side by side with the Sun. It's nothing more than a bright star in the sky, struggling to be seen. Here it is with the glare removed, and you have to really zoom in to be able to see the difference in sizes. The Sun is about 30 times wider in the sky. What would Earth look like if it had an M-class star instead of our Sun? It would be a dreary world, with a deep red skylight barely brighter than the moon to energize the planet. It would be a cold, dim world. The air temperature would be below minus 200 degrees Celsius, only just above the freezing point of nitrogen. Because it is a lot less massive, it would take 5 years instead of 1 year to orbit this star. What if we were to move closer so that it takes up the same angular diameter as the Sun and looks the same size? Here, it's still freezing though, only a dozen or so degrees warmer. But it's now only 250 times dimmer than the Sun, so definitely an improvement. Before I go any further, I would just like to point out that our brains have a tendency to adjust the colours we see by chromatic adaptation, also known as white balancing. It is highly likely the scenes here will look different to our eye, perhaps as much as this. This star has the same colour as a 2000K light bulb, approximately the same as a sunset, so I would imagine it would look a lot more like how it is originally shown here, but please bear in mind, going forward with the series, that I will be rarely showing the scenes with some form of estimated white balancing. You can ask me in the comments why. How close do we have to move it until it's as bright as the Sun? This close. The Earth is now bathed in a romantic deep red, with a huge disk of light in the sky. The Earth is now 250 times closer to this star than it is to our Sun. At this distance, it is very likely to be tidally locked, and even if it's not, it will be orbiting so fast that achieving a 24-hour day-night cycle is exceedingly unlikely. It would also be very close to all the solar activity that stars put out, especially M-class stars, which are often observed as flare stars, emitting massive solar flares that double their brightness in mere minutes. However, even at this distance, the star is just not hot enough to heat up the planet to comfortable levels. We have to go twice as close yet to get the same temperature as the Earth is around the Sun. At this distance, we are closer to the surface than we are to the Moon, and it would take only 4 hours for the Earth to orbit the star. We'd be changing season every hour. The star is 4 times brighter, although living under a sky that has the colours of perpetual sunset is rather appealing. If our Sun were indeed an M-class star, we wouldn't have to worry about a catastrophic ending to the Earth, as it wouldn't die anytime soon. The latest estimates about the lifetime of M-class stars is up to 12 trillion years. This is deep time. However much time you want to talk about, it will always be a drop in the ocean of the lifetime of the Earth. A civilization could exist, and its paleontologists would never know that there had been countless eras like the Mesozoic, where the dinosaurs reigned, and thousands of civilizations that had come and gone before them, all of whose cities, technologies, and every last trace had turned to dust and scattered in the wind trillions of years before. They live so long for several reasons. One is that they burn their fuel much more slowly as they are lighter. Secondly, they are thought to be fully convective, meaning the helium produced in the core is pulled out of the core, allowing a higher concentration of hydrogen to be sustained, fueling the reaction. M-class stars are by far the most abundant type of star, perhaps making up 75% of all stars. However, unless you use a telescope, you've never seen one. In a stunning revelation of the incredible differences in brightnesses between stars, red dwarfs go out of sight anywhere from half a light year to about 12 light years distance. Given the fact that we can see bright stars from over 16,000 light years away, this truly is incredible. There isn't one red dwarf bright enough near the Earth to be seen with the naked eye, even though the very nearest star to Earth, Proxima Centauri, is a red dwarf. This star, which we are now pivoting around, has gone out of sight before we can see almost any parallax with other stars, at less than half a light year. Because they live so long, every red dwarf star that ever formed is probably still around. They will be the last lights in the universe when all star formation has died out. When they do eventually die, they will turn into the dead stars that are white dwarfs, cooling over vast stretches of time. Red dwarf stars are possibly the most beautiful stars. The secrets of the future will be known only to them. So despite the fact that they are the coldest and the dimmest, their light will still be shining when all else is in darkness. So long, human.